The reason you don't generally hit runways is that they are easy and inexpensive to quickly fix. ABC's Alex Marcourt in the region with more on the strategy.
One of the main U.S. priorities in this strike was not to hit Russian positions or troops, which could lead to a significant escalation. They were successful in that, but they have damaged the already abysmal relationship with Russia in this strike. The Kremlin calling this a clear act of aggression. Russia is always talking about the importance of sovereignty. Russia sees this U.S. strike on Syria as a real violation of sovereignty.
Right now, a massive manhunt for a suspect police say is heavily armed. 32-year-old Joseph Jakubowski, who authorities say sent an anti-government manifesto to the White House and stole dozens of guns from a Wisconsin gun store. In the aftermath of that deadly truck attack in Sweden, the Prime Minister, Stefan Löfven.
We are constantly working on defending ourselves against terrorism, and we will do whatever it takes to make sure that people can feel safe.
At least 4 people killed in that attack. The suspect, a 39-year-old native of Uzbekistan. He has been arrested. You're listening to ABC News.
ADT presents What to Consider When Considering Home Security. An ADT sign is more than a sign. It's a line in the sand. On one side, your family. On the other, an uncertain world.
For over 140 years, more people have chosen ADT to help prevent crime than anyone else. Get ADT starting at just $28.99 a month.
Tested, trusted, proven ADT.
With 36-month contract for licensing and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Here's a little ditty about that John Deere mower deck that mows faster, better. It's not how fast you mow, my friends, it's how well you mow fast. If you just mow fast but your yard looks bad, then you got a lot of ugly grass. You need a John Deere to take care of your yard. You need a Z-Track Z3 45R. It's not how fast you mow, my friends, it's how well you mow fast. The XL deck's got more capacity for yards like yours that get to grassity. Want to mow well in a higher gear? See a John Deere dealer, nothing runs like a deer.
No signs of a missing Northern California woman who disappeared over a week ago.
20-year-old Allie Yeoman hasn't been heard from since she left a friend's house on March 30th. Police are now confirming family members have received some kind of electronic communication from someone. On Thursday, police said there was no ransom demand, but now they won't say if those messages are demanding ransom. Gridley Biggs Police Chief Dean Price read a statement from Yeoman's family.
We will continue to work together and pour every effort into the search.
That search is underway in at least 2 Northern California counties. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Monday is the first day on the new job for Judge Neil Gorsuch, filling the open seat on the Supreme Court after an unprecedented confirmation hearing. ABC's Gloria Riviera reports.
Justice Gorsuch will get right to work. He's poised to have an immediate impact as the Supreme Court begins to hear oral arguments on major issues, such as the separation of church and state and rights for same-sex couples. In a statement, President Trump congratulated Justice Gorsuch and praised the confirmation process for being transparent and accessible. Gorsuch will be sworn in Monday.
NBA history, 55 years in the making. Russell Westbrook of the Oklahoma Thunder now averaging a triple-double for the season. That's double digits in scoring, rebounding, and assists, making him the first pro basketball player to do that since Oscar Robertson in 1962. This is ABC News.
Writing job descriptions, sifting through resumes, setting up interviews. Hiring's hard, but Indeed.com makes it easier. Post your job, manage candidates, schedule interviews, all on Indeed. And since independent research shows that Indeed delivers 5 times more hires than any other job site, easy works. Right now, we're giving new users a $50 credit to post a sponsored job on the world's #1 job site. Claim your $50 credit at Indeed.com/credit. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
Dave Packer, ABC News.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont and the Pass area on this Saturday morning, we have a wind advisory in effect through 10 o'clock tonight. There's a chance for morning showers. Skies will clear this afternoon with a high of 64 as winds gust to 40 miles an hour. Tonight, it'll be clear and windy with a low of 45 with gusts to 40 miles an hour. Sunday should be sunny with a high of 70 with winds to 25 miles an hour. For Redlands, there's a chance for showers this morning. We'll have clearing skies today with a high of 67 that winds to 20 miles an hour. For Palm Springs, we'll have a high of 81 and a mostly sunny skies. I'm Rod Tanner for Smart Talk 1490 KMET.
The Banning Beaumont Cherry Valley Tea Party meets every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. for informal breakfast and discussion. And they meet each month on the second Thursday at 5 p.m., all at the Farms House Restaurant in Banning. Listen to interesting speakers, learn about our Constitution with our free classes, enjoy friendly discussions, and informal dining. Come join us. For more information, call Glenn Stoll, 951-316-3843.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Welcome back. Constitution Radio, Douglas V. Gibbs, here on KMET 1490 AM. Do you follow me on Facebook? Did you even know I'm on Facebook? You can follow my personal Facebook at facebook.com/Douglas V. Gibbs. You can find me on Twitter with the same ending, Douglas V. Gibbs. There's also a Constitution Study Facebook page. Look it up, Constitution Study Facebook page, and follow that one. We have over 11,000 followers on that page. I would love it to get over 12,000, and I'd love for you to be one of those folks. Also, if you want to participate in today's program, it's not too late. 951-922-3532, 922-3532, and that gets you on the program with Douglas V. Gibbs, Constitution Radio, KMET 1490 AM. All right, as we move forward, did you hear the story, Alex and Dennis, about Mike Pence being criticized by the Democrats because he had said back in 2012, and now it's all bubbling up now because of an interview with his wife. He had said he will not dine with a woman alone unless his wife is there. He will only dine with females if his wife's there. Uh-huh. And also he will not go to any event that has alcohol without his wife present. Now, to me, that makes sense. Now here's what was fascinating.
I don't drink, so the alcohol wouldn't bother me one way or the other.
Well, but here's the thing, though. The way the left took it and the way I took it are two different things. The left is appalled. They're appalled. And there was I think it was 2002, actually, interview. And basically, the Washington Post had an article about his wife, Karen, just like a week or two ago. And they referred back to that interview in 2002 where he said that he never eats alone with a woman other than his wife and that he won't attend events featuring alcohol without her by his side either. The reaction was swift and extremely polarized, according to the Washington Post. And the Post chalked it up to him being it all being a Christian thing where religion demands establishing such boundaries separating men and women from men, which is sexist. It reeks of sexism in a bygone era, an impractical code in the modern age of men and women working alongside one another, and how could the Vice President of the United States not be trusted to dine alone or attend parties with women without it venturing into unholy territory? Oh, first of all, so he thinks he has that because he can't trust himself? Is that their first thought? All right, and so there's this article after article. Well, if a woman can't dine with her boss, how's she going to move up in a company? I mean, so it's taking away opportunities for women. That sexist, because he can't trust himself with another woman, as if a women, I'm trying to find where it is now, but as if women are the temptress. Men are pigs kind of attitude here.
Well, I think part of the point is if he were out and paparazzi or anybody shot a picture of it, it's a fact that he was at dinner, or he was at
with a woman, not his wife, and it's all over the place.
And people could read into that anything they want, and it may be that it's not a matter of whether or not he trusts himself, but he doesn't trust what other people may try to do with it, so he just controls the content.
I'm not going to go to an opposite extreme of the feminist, leftist, progressive, commie Democrats and say that it's all women's fault if there's a problem either.
No.
Men can be pigs. I don't believe they can't be. But Pence's decision has nothing to do with politics, or whether or not his wife is whether or not his wife is the one in control and she's cracking a whip, won't let him eat with women after dark, or the delicate fabric of the social stature of women. Pence's rule is simply common sense. When I was growing up, here's what my dad used to say to me, and I bet you most of you guys out there remember this from your own dads. If you don't want the wrong things happening to you, don't put yourself into those situations in the first place. Remember that? Something along those lines? Alex, did you get that when you were growing up?
I'm looking at the chickification of America. Anything that has to do with the nature of males, anything that has to do with what males would consider worth doing, has become verboten. For instance,
sure.
The Constitution says we have freedom of association. That I would think means that you don't have to associate yourself with a woman who is not your wife in a private setting. It also would mean.
Well, how dare you? That's sexist.
That men's clubs. Why can't men get together and smoke their cigars and tell their off-color jokes and pass gas and act like men? That's part of being a male.
Well, that's not allowed anymore. But I guarantee you, women's clubs are allowed. There's nothing worse than being a white straight American male. Biggest target on your back is the Pence rule makes sense. Not just because we should be reasonable about how we run our lives. Maybe you shouldn't put yourself in a bad situation. Shouldn't be with a woman that's not your wife and all that. But also, as a former truck driver, I'm a very skilled driver. But I still wear a lap belt and drive with full alertness, not because I don't trust myself, but because there are other factors to consider, right? Other drivers may not be as aware or as skilled as I am. Other drivers may act in a manner when they drive that is more erratic than I may anticipate. So there's other external conditions like weather or road quality that may change the parameters of my task. Sometimes it's just good to make sure you're prepared for any bad thing that may poke its silly head in your situation. I've been married for 33 years. My wife totally trusts me. Matter of fact, I had someone of the opposite sex
in your car
right up with me to Redlands. My wife was totally fine with that. And had it not been someone I totally trusted and someone my wife trusted, probably wouldn't have happened. But normally, I don't put myself in those situations either. Like Pence said, I typically don't either. And as I get more well known, I won't. Desiree was her name. She works with me at the Constitution Association. That ride with Desiree, I would have had two other guys in the car with me, or my wife with me. She had to work. In the future when I'm more well known. Why? Because number one, like Dennis said, paparazzi picks it up, they blow it out of proportion. Suddenly it's this big issue, and then you have to resign your position because of something you never did. But also, another thing, a friend of mine, a friend's story that carries with it a large. This information is public, but I believe there's a court case pending, so I'm not going to use names. But my buddy is a family man, happily married, has children, is a very conservative individual. He used to be on a local city council. The towns in Southwest Riverside County are fairly conservative, as was this particular council at the time he was elected a member to it. And in fact, the members of that particular council prided themselves in being an all-Republican group, though they could not say so in public per se, because technically the area cities councils are supposed to be nonpartisan. Anyway, on a number of issues, my friend was much more conservative than his colleagues. So while he was always sticking to his conservative ideals, he was also often voting against all of the other members on the council on a number of particular issues. And this was especially disconcerting to his not as conservative as him colleagues when it came to sustainability and regionalism. So for the other 4 council members, their values went out the window when it came to bringing in money for the city from non-government organizations in connection with the implementation of the UN sustainability agenda. Now, while the vote still passed, despite my friend's dissent, the reality was that my friend was only one man and could only influence the vote so much. He was outnumbered. But in the minds of his colleagues, he was still a threat to them, so a scheme to remove him from his position of power went into play. Now, he for the most part, practices a rule similar to Pence's, but he has little kids at home, so his wife could not always be with him for all events. At one such event, which was very public, with many people around, my friend wound up talking to a particular woman, a former reporter. Conversation moved from inside the building to the parking lot of the event in the waning hours of the evening. There was still plenty of people in sight, so there was no, we're hiding in the corner or anything, but the two were far enough away that a moment alone with another woman other than his wife did occur. Nothing became of it, however, for a very long time. In an attempt to either jump on the opportunity of media attention and money from a lawsuit as a series of unsubstantiated allegations had emerged against my friend, or because the forces against my friend instructed her to do so, the woman, after a long period had passed, suddenly accused my friend of groping her and other actions that could be classified as sexual harassment. There were no witnesses there in the parking lot by themselves, and no other person could elaborate the woman's story. So while the district attorney refused to take the case because of a lack of evidence, the city council went on to strip my friend of his position as mayor, strip him of many of his duties and responsibilities. He then lost decisively in the following election a year later because all the accusations, it's like, you know how it is with the Democrats or the left, the truth doesn't matter. It's the seriousness of the allegation that really matters. And his political career has, for the most part, ended. He was considered a rising star, but because of one instance where he allowed himself to be alone with a woman other than his wife for only a brief moment, and nothing wrong happened, everything for him in the political world has come to a screeching halt, and his desire to be a rising star on the political scene has been completely dismantled. Does Pence have his role because his wife demands it, or because he thinks women are lower on the food chain of politics, or because his religion demands it of him, or because he wants to hold women back from being able to achieve political success, or because he doesn't think he can trust himself around another woman? No, he does it because it's common sense. He doesn't want to put himself in a position where accusations of sexual impropriety can emerge. Simple as that. It's common sense. What are your thoughts?
It seems to me that I remember the tale of Pantages, who owned the Pantages Theater, was approached by Joe Kennedy, who wanted to buy it, and he didn't want to sell it. So Kennedy sent a young lady in on him. She comes out of his office and says that she'd been mishandled and all this kind of stuff. Well, it turns out the story fell apart. But it's an example of how this kind of thing can be misused to destroy somebody such as your friend
right,
without their having done anything wrong.
So Pence having that rule makes all the sense in the world, not because he can't trust himself or because he wants to hold women back. He can't trust the Democrats.
Well, see, the only people that get picked on like this are people that believe in this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to hold yourself to your own personal standard, if you want to use the word moral standard, you can't use that word anymore, because if I think it's a moral standard, then that means I think everybody else is immoral, and therefore I'm not being politically correct.
Right.
But the challenge being that if you do not have concerns about that, or you don't think it's a big deal, then there's no harm, no foul. And I don't need to go into Bill Clinton and go into a lot of the other stuff, but there's a lot of things that have happened on the other side of the aisle that to them it isn't a big deal.
Well, they don't have any values, so how could they be accused of crossing their values?
Well, that's part of the challenge. If you're trying to play the game by rules and you're playing against somebody who doesn't have the rules, you got to be really good to beat them.
Right. Now, let's take this a little further, and let's compare this to a few other things going on now. All right, so if you want to have traditional values regarding women and not putting yourself in a position that could be construed in a way other than it is, you're accused of holding women back. if you refuse to bake a cake for someone because of their sexual behavior, you're accused of being a bigot and a homophobe. If you don't want people to be able to use whatever bathroom they feel like they should be able to use at the moment, you're accused of being discriminatory against transgender. By the way, a federal court just concluded and ruled that civil rights law includes transgender and homosexuals. And they're essentially saying that your right to your sexual behavior is more important than your religious liberties. That's goes on a little bit further. And then we got our illegal aliens. Our illegal aliens also, well, their rights also are so high and mighty that, it also goes over the rights of American citizens. Do you see what's happening here?
They just had
morality, citizenry, common sense. It's all going out the window. And in the case of this one situation, real quick, and then I'll let you have it, Alex. A Mexican man was recorded his niece sobbing as her illegal alien father was arrested by immigration officials. The video went viral to shame the supporters of President Donald Trump for breaking up families. What revealed later on, though, it turned out was, well, the Robert Espino, who uploaded the cell phone footage on Facebook, claimed that Texas officers were arresting his poor brother in front of the man's young daughter for nothing more than being an undocumented immigrant, while illegal immigration was enough to warrant arrest and deportation. He hoped to incite the left once more against Trump and his supporters. And Espino could be heard crying out, "This is for all you expletive who voted for Trump, breaking up families," and expletive, while recording his distraught niece sobbing over her father. What Espino conveniently failed to mention was that his brother was indeed a criminal beyond his illegal entry to the U.S. The man in question is 35-year-old Eduardo Diaz Escobedo, a convicted child rapist. But you know what? His rights are above your citizens' rights because, those Republicans trying to break up families. Real quick, Alex, because we got to go to break.
Yeah, there was a recent case at Disneyland where some women had gone into the restroom with their children and things were normal, and a big hulking man walked in, leaned up against the wall, and stared at them. And they didn't know whether to poop or go blind. What are you supposed to do? His right to stand there and ogle underage girls going to the bathroom is now superior to the rights of this young girl. It's insane.
Well, there's a story you talk about in San Diego. In San Diego, the Belly Up Tavern, the San Diego Union had a article about a week ago. A transgender woman who says she was shocked. By the way, it was a guy dressed as a guy. But that's beside the point. And embarrassed last week when she came in the women's restroom during a concert at the Belly Up Tavern. An employee admonished her that she had to use the bathroom corresponding with the gender on her driver's license.
So this is a guy.
It was like public shaming for me, the person said. 46-year-old person said. The it. All right. And you know what? It's going to go to court, I bet. Why? Because as the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, Kevin Kish, director of that, said, it is a very clear, straightforward violation of state law. Dude looks like a lady, sort of, kind of, but it's definitely a dude in the women's bathroom. The person who owns the establishment says, hey, I want you to use in the bathroom. It corresponds with, what's under your pants and on your driver's license, and it's a lawsuit.
Well, that's
whatever happened to the right to refuse service to anybody, because you own that business privately.
Well, I thought was interesting that this is a man who is dressed as a man, but I guess identifies as a woman.
Well, had some femininity.
Well, I'm just simply saying. I mean, so he is dressed in a fashion contrary to his sexual identity, and how are you supposed to know? If a man dressed as a man who feels like a woman goes into a woman's bathroom, you don't know what the feeling is. You're just looking, at the appearance, which, he's dressed similar to the driver's license, but evidently even that's against the law now there. I mean, that's the point, is wherever anybody wants to go, they can go. Now, what I wonder is why don't you have bathrooms for men and bathrooms for women, and it'd be easier to spend the money.
Have a third bathroom.
Have a third bathroom
crazies.
For anybody, however you want to go. But then everybody wins. But they can't do that. They have to put the majority, uncomfortable due to, the great minority. And the thing cracked me up also with the schools. Here you got teachers who have faculty lounges, have restrooms just for the adults. And then you've got a child, maybe 12 or 15 or 16, high school, junior high, whatever it is, who identifies with the other gender, whether or not they're dressing that way or not. So they go into the children's or the students' bathroom, which is causing concerns with the parents. Why don't they just say, hey, come on up to us. We're adults. We're in control. We support your cause. So go up, and if you're a boy who feels like you're a woman, then go up into the office and just go to the woman's bathroom. They ought to be very accepting of that. But now the problem with that is, well, he may have to walk an extra 50 yards or 100 yards, and he's being denied access to the normal restrooms. So no matter how you slice it, somebody can, try to come back and
Well, that's the whole point, though. And here's what amazes me. All these people who are demanding a gender-neutral society where there's really no difference. So that way there can't be any discrimination. We're all just the same. You ever seen, and this goes for you too, Alex, the old movies about the future societies where totalitarianism makes everybody no different from each other, and it's just a gray world where everybody's got shaved heads? Isn't that what they're going for?
I'm glad you brought that up, because having studied Marxism and Marxist revolution for the majority of my adult life, I can tell you that what they seek to do is destroy the culture. Our culture is dying the death of 1,000 cuts. And the idea is that when a culture is solid and predictable, people feel secure and comfortable. When a culture is every kind of weird ricochet that we've got today, it makes people uneasy. It makes people unsatisfied. It's like the death penalty, it's normal for people whose daughter has been horribly raped and mutilated to expect the person who did it without a shadow of a doubt. And now we have all the DNA and cameras, the closed-circuit TV and everything. We've got tremendous evidence for people to not see these. The guy gets 6 years. 6 years. That's going to create a fertile ground for revolution. And they
I got
know
a question for you, Alex. I'm sure you'll nail it well, but part of the game plan of the socialists to bring the country down, as you have mentioned, is to destroy our culture, destroy the family, destroy all these things. And as we talk about the rights of all the various sexual preferences, even though communism would love to see our society falter in that area, what kind of rights do they have in totalitarian? I mean, in Russia, if you're or in China, if you're doing something that they encourage to do in America, are they as accepting as they want America to be?
Well, one of the things that I'm going to be bringing up in my book review today is that in the revolutionary stage, a Marxist society is all loose and open and experimental and radical. But as soon as they gain power, and this was even true of the what the heck they call them, the what do they call somebody that wants no laws?
Anarchist.
Anarchists. The anarchists in the Spanish Civil War, when they got power, they clamped on a totalitarian government on their occupied areas that was stronger than any of them. It's only in the revolutionary stage that you get this kind of weird non.
Well, Alex, let me wrap up this topic with this. What this is it's collectivism, and we're not collectivists. What it really is about, and I want you people to listen carefully. This is all about stamping out individualism. Help me fight the good fight. This radio program is funded by advertising dollars. So, if you are a business, add Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs to your business portfolio. If you are a listener, become a patron of the businesses advertising on this program. Without advertising, your weekend dose of truth ends. With more